So imagine waking up tomorrow morning, um, opening your eyes and realizing your entire life has just been hit with a hard reset.
Oh, wow. Like starting totally from scratch.
Exactly, starting over from
No.
zero.
Yeah.
But, and here's the catch, you still have every single memory from your current life.
Oof. Okay, that changes things.
Right. Like you remember every catastrophic mistake, every burned bridge,
Mm.
every time you let fear dictate your choices, all of that regret.
That sounds incredibly heavy.
It really is.
Yeah.
And the question is, if you were handed that impossible blank slate, right, knowing everything you know right now, what exactly would you do differently?
Man, that is a wild premise because usually when we, think about going back in time, we just imagine using our adult brains to get rich or look like a genius.
Totally. Buy some stocks, win the lottery.
Right. We rarely think about the agonizing emotional burden of carrying a literal lifetime of failures into a fresh start.
Well, and that burden is the exact starting point for today's deep dive. We are looking at this really compelling four-part essay series that explores this exact scenario, but through kind of a unique lens.
Yeah, the acclaimed anime, Mushoku Tensei.
Exactly. Now, for the listener who is an anime fan, you probably already know this as a massive cornerstone of the reincarnation genre.
Oh, definitely.
But our mission today isn't to just, like, recap a TV show. We're digging into these essays because the author does something really remarkable. They actually mine the protagonist's journey for incredibly potent real-world survival strategies.
Yeah, they really synthesize the show's narrative into this cohesive philosophy on personal growth and, relationship
And
building.
just the actual mechanics of a second chance.
Exactly. It's about looking at someone who utterly failed at life and extracting the psychological blueprints that let them rebuild. And these concepts apply to anyone trying to reinvent themselves.
Regardless of whether you've watched 100 episodes in the anime or absolutely zero.
Yep.
So let's start with that initial premise, like the absolute rock bottom.
Yeah.
The character at the center of this analysis was a 34-year-old shut-in.
A total recluse.
Yeah, complete reckless. And he dies with this overwhelming mountain of regrets, just utterly ashamed of the life he wasted, only to be reborn with all those memories completely intact.
Which is terrifying. I mean, most people in that situation would just be totally paralyzed by the shame.
Absolutely.
The instinct to just suppress that shame is so natural. But the essays highlight this profound shift in mindset. The protagonist, Rudius, he doesn't just wallow in the past, right?
Right.
And he doesn't try to forget it either. He actually weaponizes his regret. He looks at his previous life as this meticulous map of minefields.
Oh, I like that. A map of minefields.
Yeah. So every time he feels the urge to be lazy or give up or act arrogantly, that visceral memory of his painful, isolated death kicks in. He uses regret as the ultimate fuel for living earnestly.
That reframes regret entirely.
Yeah.
Because usually, we're told to just let go of the past, move on.
Right. Toxic positivity almost.
Exactly. But this is more like treating your own life like like a failed startup.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. You don't just quietly toss the files into a dumpster and pretend the company never existed.
Yeah.
You open the books, you analyze exactly where the cash flow stopped, you study the metrics.
You do a total post-mortem.
Yes. You use that hard data to guarantee your next venture survives.
But, to do that kind of data extraction, you need a massive amount of humility.
Definitely.
The source material really emphasizes how vital it is to maintain a beginner's mindset. Because in his previous life, this character had a slight knack for computers.
Just a little bit of skill. Right?
Yeah, just enough to give him this incredibly toxic sense of superiority. He assumed he was just naturally better than everyone else.
Which is so dangerous.
It ruined him. It led him to stop trying, isolate himself, and eventually ruin his life.
So when he shows early talent in his new life, he has to actively fight the urge to fall back into that old arrogance.
Precisely. He constantly repeats to himself, I am a beginner. This is just beginner's luck. He's actively unlearning the arrogance.
That's so relatable, honestly.
Think about the mechanics of this in a modern career, right?
Yeah.
How often do people get a tiny bit of early success, maybe a quick promotion, and suddenly they decide they have nothing left to learn?
Oh, all the time. They stop asking questions because they think asking questions makes them look weak or unqualified.
Right. And by refusing to acknowledge what they don't know, they just completely cut themselves off from further growth.
Yeah.
Admitting you are a beginner opens you up to mentorship and rapid skill acquisition. But the essays actually go a step further here, arguing a point that is genuinely counterintuitive.
Okay, what's
That absolutely no experience from your past is wasted.
Really? None of it?
None of it. Not even the years this protagonist spent just locked in his room playing video games.
Okay, that is a tough pill to swallow. I mean, most of society would label a decade spent grinding in an MMO as a total write-off, like a complete waste of human potential. How do the essays justify that?
Well, by looking at the underlying cognitive mechanisms, the author points out that video games require intense strategic thinking.
Right, resource management, risk assessment.
Exactly. In a massive multiplayer game, you don't fight the final boss at level 1. You grind. You do low-level tasks. You manage your inventory. You analyze patterns.
So the essays are arguing that if you have the self-awareness to connect those dots, those specific mental frameworks are highly transferable to the real world.
That's exactly it. You treat acquiring real-world skills with the same methodical patience you'd use to level up a digital character.
So, like, you don't cure deep social anxiety by throwing yourself into a massive club party.
Right, you treat it like a skill tree. You start by just saying hello to the cashier, you grind that low-level interaction until you build tolerance, and then you level up.
Wow. So the past is never useless if you know how to harvest the underlying framework.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I follow the logic here. We have the internal blueprint. We're using our regret as a map. We're staying humble. We're treating life like a methodical school tree.
Right.
But a blueprint doesn't build a house on its own. How do you actually transition from this internal analysis to, taking action in the real world, especially for adults who are generally just terrified of looking foolish?
That's the tricky part. The sources point to adopting an agile mindset, which, to your point, adults are notoriously bad at.
Oh, terrible at it.
Children learn quickly because they don't attach their ego to failure. But adults are paralyzed by overthinking because society penalizes our mistakes heavily.
We want to read 10 books and finish a master class before we even attempt a new hobby.
We want to guarantee success before we even start. But the fastest way to grow is through rapid trial and error in low-risk environments.
Just getting your hands dirty.
Exactly. The essays highlight this great moment where the protagonist's mentor, Roxy, attempts a spell and she makes a mistake.
Oh, I remember this.
Right, and instead of treating it as this crushing defeat or a blow to her authority, the moment is immediately reframed. The takeaway is literally, you didn't fail, you gained experience.
I love that. It strips the moral weight off the mistake.
Right.
It's not a dead end, it's just necessary data.
Exactly. However, as you adopt this agile mindset and start acquiring all this new competence, you run into a very real danger.
Okay.
And the sources offer a stark warning here. Do not advertise everything you can do.
Wait, hold on. That feels super contradictory. We're supposed to be proactive, trying everything, building our skills rapidly, but we're also supposed to hide our capacity.
I know, it sounds weird at first.
Yeah, like why would you build an amazing skill set just to keep it a secret? How are you supposed to balance hungry ambition with protecting your boundaries?
It sounds contradictory until you separate your internal growth from external expectations.
Okay, unpack that for me.
Think about it. When you demonstrate extreme competence in every area at work, you rarely get promoted. You get exploited.
Oh, the handyman problem.
Yes. If you show your office that you can fix the IT issues, write the marketing copy, and balance the budget, you don't become a specialized asset. You become the team's pack mule.
You just get punished for your own competence with everyone else's offloaded work.
Exactly. Your capacity gets completely hijacked. So your internal growth, that agile mindset, the rapid learning, that is for you. That's how you build your arsenal.
But how you deploy that arsenal externally has to be heavily regulated.
Highly regulated with strict boundaries. You grow aggressively in private, but you set limits in public to protect the energy you need for your actual goals.
That makes so much sense. You have to protect your bandwidth. But eventually, hyperindependence hits a wall, right? Like you can't achieve massive goals entirely in a vacuum. You have to connect with other people.
You absolutely do.
And the essays bring up something really fascinating about relationships here. They argue that the biggest obstacle to human connection is actually the pursuit of perfection.
This is honestly one of the most profound insights in the whole series. It stems from advice given by the character Paul, who notes that a perfectly flawless person is incredibly difficult to love.
Because there's no room for anyone else.
Exactly. If you never need help, if you never demonstrate a single flaw or vulnerability, you leave no space for the other person to exist in the dynamic.
The author of the essays shares a deeply personal anecdote about this that really stuck with me.
Oh, the story about his ex-girlfriend.
Yes. He writes about how she left him, Precisely because he did everything flawlessly.
Which sounds crazy, right?
Right. Like, he managed all the finances, he did all the chores, he planned all the dates, he solved every single problem. He genuinely believed he was being the ultimate perfect partner.
But she emotionally withered away.
Completely. She left because she felt she had no role, no value to add to his life.
It's a tragic but incredibly common psychological trap. We assume we must be invincible to be worthy of love. But human connection is fundamentally built on mutual utility and mutual need.
It makes me think of an archway made of stone.
Ah, how so?
Well, if every single stone is perfectly smooth, perfectly polished on all sides, the arch will just collapse under pressure. It's the friction, the intentional gaps, the keystone locking into place that actually gives it strength.
That is a brilliant way to visualize it.
Right. Your vulnerability, that intentional missing piece in your armor, is what allows someone else's strength to lock the relationship together.
By showing weakness, you are actually giving the other person a gift. You're giving them the opportunity to support you, which validates their worth in your life.
Yeah.
And that vulnerability is absolutely critical when we look at the role of mentorship in overcoming deep trauma, which is another big theme.
Let's get into that because the dynamic between Rudius and his mentor, Roxy, is so central to these essays. He has this crippling, traumatizing fear of simply walking outside his front door.
Complete agoraphobia.
Right. But the essays point out that his loving, totally supportive parents were entirely incapable of helping him overcome it. It was Roxy who finally broke that trauma. Why would an outsider succeed where his own parents failed?
Because parents often represent the environment of the trauma itself. Their love is immense, obviously, but it is intrinsically tied to expectations, shared history, and profound emotional baggage.
So they're too close to it.
The essays argue that family is often simply too close to the blast zone. You need a third-party mentor, someone entirely outside the family system.
Someone who doesn't carry the weight of your entire childhood on their shoulders.
Exactly. Roxy faced her own struggles with belonging and insecurity, so she could model the exact behavior he needed to see without the unspoken pressure of parental expectations.
She shared the context of his pain, but not the context of his family system.
Right. It's about finding the mentor who actually aligns with your specific psychological block, not just relying on the people who happen to live in your house.
And speaking of choosing who gets to influence your life, the essays spend a lot of time on how to judge the true essence of a person. Paul warns his son not to be fooled by people who just dress themselves up in fancy titles or superficial charm.
And the essay author reinforces this with another really vivid personal story.
The one about his former wife's home.
Yes, he talks about visiting her home for the very first time. On the surface, during their dates, everything seems so polished and put together.
Sure, everyone puts their best foot forward.
But when he actually entered her private space, he noticed this deeply stained TV stand and a broken vacuum cleaner that had just been sitting there, unfixed and unreplaced, for 6 months.
6 months is a really long time to just step over a broken vacuum cleaner every day.
It really is. And the author uses this as a crucial metaphor for judging character. Because anyone can fake a grand gesture, right?
Well, absolutely.
Anyone can put on a charming front for a 3-hour dinner date. But you cannot fake your daily habits.
It's so true.
How a person maintains their private spaces, how they handle mundane responsibilities when literally no one is watching. That is the raw data of their inner essence.
Because if the foundation is rotting, a fresh coat of paint on the exterior doesn't really matter. Those daily habits eventually dictate how they will treat you.
Exactly.
Which brings us, I think, to the most complex arena of all. We can choose our mentors, we can filter our romantic partners based on their habits, but the ultimate crucible for personal growth is how we handle the relationships we don't choose.
Our family.
Our family. It is the ultimate test of all these philosophies.
And the essays anchor this section with one of the protagonist's most haunting memories from his past life. It's the agonizing decision he made to skip his own parents' funeral.
God, the guilt of that must be just suffocating.
It is the absolute core of his trauma, and the lesson the essays extract from it is brutal but necessary. It's about the strict timing of filial piety, of gratitude.
No, wait.
Exactly. The message is relentless. Do it now. Express your gratitude. Show your respect. Make the connection today. Because the people you assume will always be there absolutely will not be.
We constantly trick ourselves into thinking we have an infinite runway. Like, oh, I'm busy this week, I'll call them on Sunday, or we had a big fight, I'll let them cool off and apologize next month.
Right.
But that procrastination is exactly how you end up with a permanent scar.
There.
And this ties directly into the essay's analysis of anger, particularly with the father character, Paul.
Yeah, Paul harbors his own massive unresolved trauma because his father died before they could reconcile after a terrible argument.
Which is heartbreaking.
It is. And the essays translate this pain into a really vital lesson on leadership and parenting. Because Paul understands the sheer agony of unresolved anger, he realizes the danger of letting his ego drive a conflict.
This is the concept of putting an expiration date on your anger.
Precisely.
Mm.
You must force yourself to listen to the other person's side before you scold them.
Even when you are absolutely certain you are right.
Even then.
Because if you just rain down judgment, you risk creating a rift that might permanently sever the relationship. You always have to build an exit strategy for an argument, like a bridge back to peace, before the clock runs out.
And that deep understanding of family dynamics actually leads to what is arguably the most controversial moment analyzed in the series.
So when Paul forcibly separates Rudius from Sylphie.
Yes. He forcibly, and quite violently, separates his son from his childhood friend.
Wait, I have to say, I really struggled with this part of the analysis because these two kids were essentially attached at the hip, finding safety in each other, and Paul just rips them apart.
It's intense.
It feels incredibly harsh. Is it really love to forcefully push someone out of the nest like that? It sounds like he's actively traumatizing them to build character. How do we draw the line between being a supportive safety net and just repeating a cycle of damage?
It is a harsh moment, and it is absolutely meant to be uncomfortable. But the essays ask us to look at the trajectory of their relationship. Paul recognizes that keeping someone perfectly safe but utterly dependent on you to function isn't love. It's a slow-acting poison. By sheltering Sylphie from every single challenge, Rudius was stripping her of her ability to stand on her own 2 feet.
So the protection was actually paralyzing her.
Exactly.
Right.
And the essays draw a razor-sharp distinction here between a safety net and a cage.
Oh, I like that.
Right. A safety net is something that catches a person when they attempt to fly and happen to fall. Codependence is building a cage so they never attempt to fly in the first place, ensuring they will always need you.
That is a staggering distinction. A safety net catches you, but a cage stops you from jumping.
Paul forced them out of their comfort zone because he knew that leaving that zone is the necessary friction for genuine independence.
Even if they hate him for it in the short term.
Exactly. It feels incredibly harsh, but the most profound acts of love often require us to endure the temporary anger of the person we're trying to help so they can achieve long-term survival.
You have to be willing to be the villain in their story for a little while so they can become the hero of their own.
Well said.
Man, that brings all of this into incredibly sharp focus. If we pull back and look at the synthesis of these 4 essays, the overarching takeaway isn't that self-improvement is some, clean aesthetic journey of waking up at 5 a.m. and hacking your productivity.
Not at all. True personal growth is a messy, deeply uncomfortable process. It requires the emotional endurance to look at your worst regrets and use them as a compass rather than a hiding place.
Yeah.
It demands the strategic humility to leave an intentional gap in your armor so others can connect with you. And, as we just discussed, the sheer courage to force yourself, and sometimes the people you love most, out of the safety of the cage.
It's the realization that a second chance isn't about being flawless this time around. It's about having the courage to make better mistakes, to gain experience without letting it destroy your ego, and to stop hiding from the consequences of your own life.
I couldn't have summarized it better myself.
Which brings us right back to the question we started with. I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over. Take a hard look at the relationships in your life right now. Are you holding on to anger that is quietly passing its expiration date?
It's a tough question.
It is. If you were handed your own hard reset tomorrow morning, if you woke up with a blank slate but all the knowledge you possess right this second, what is the very first apology you would finally make? Or, perhaps even more importantly, what is the first boundary you would finally have the courage to set?